And we're live.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Whitewater Township Board to order on August 13th, 2026 at 6:30 PM. If you can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call of board members.
Aaron's absent. Excused.
Yes.
Milnick,
Here.
Hoeksema, present. Quigley, present. Slopsma.
Here. Okay, we're at set, adjust, and approve the meeting agenda. We have our new township assessor, Michael Beach, here tonight in person, so I would like to put him as the first item under unfinished business, so he can just come for a moment and address the board. Secondly, I'd like to move Dan Soper is here as a recommended appointee to the Zoning Board of Appeals. He's currently on item K1, and I'd like to have him come in right after Michael Beach. Are there any other adjustments to the agenda?
I'm gonna add some correspondence to the consent calendar.
Okay,
A D Jacobson about constitutional rights. An A Zibitowski about recycling. And an M Taylor regarding speed signs.
and then lastly, under unfinished business, there had been some placeholders on the agenda tonight. Items 4, 5, and 6 that all had to do with the township treasurer position, those were all resolved on Tuesday, as well as the assessor notation. That was actually a typo. So items 4, 5, and 6 shall be deleted. Any other changes from anybody?
Just a question, where on the agenda is Mr. Beach and the ZBA appointment made?
I was going to put them as the first items under unfinished business. All right, so I'll do a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
So move.
Second. Sheet either.
All right, and seconded by
Seconded by
Sarah.
Quigley.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. So we'll move on here. Okay, declaration of conflict of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with any of the content of tonight's meeting?
Nope.
None here. None?
No.
None noted. Okay, next up is public comment. Any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the Township Board. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Comments shall be directed to the board with questions directed to the chair. Any person wishing to address the board shall speak from the lectern. Please state your name and your relationship to the township. Persons may address the board on matters that are relevant to Whitewater Township government issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once per comment period. The chair shall control the amount of time each person shall have and shall not exceed 3 minutes. In addition, to avoid unscheduled debates, the board generally will not comment or respond to presenters. Silence or non-response from the board should not be interpreted as disinterest or disagreement. To maintain order, comments should be respectful to all parties. So with that, who would like to step forward and make a public comment tonight?
Good evening. My name is Eric Sanborn, 7905 Cook Road. I would just like to say I'm opposed to this zoning ordinance, penalties and nuisances. The amount of $500 a day seems excessive. I don't know what you all each make per day, but if you count 7 days and each day is a new violation and a new fine, that's $3,500 a week, over $12,000 a month if it continues. That's excessively crushing to any kind of a normal person. I think that most people, speaking for myself, want less government oversight in my life. Not none, but not a lot. This seems like a lot. So request is that you don't pass that and vote negative on it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak during public comment?
Jim Snyder, 8316 Old M72, downtown Williamsburg. Pretty much we've already got the general ordinance side of things already taken care of. You guys have already voted that in. Now the PC has handed it to you pretty much with no changes as far as what I watched the meeting and everything, that they talked about doing changes, but then it didn't for whatever reasons. I know Randy had a lot of different reasons, use those couple things in the board packet, about the blight, the junk and things. That blight seems to be coming up a lot lately. And I mean, I've looked up the definition of blight. I've known what it is for years because I know it could always be coming at me. And I'm just saying, I don't think people know what blight is. Blight is something that's hazardous to somebody's health and safety. And I don't, honest to God, I don't know who in the township actually has blight, be it like garbage or something like that in their yard, that they have rats in their yard. I know people have tried to do that to my garage over there, when I'm not around there. But I don't live over there. I don't have garbage over there. I don't have things over there. So I've asked many times different township officials and stuff, what's the bottom line here? What is the urgency? I know this is one thing. It's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. In this case, the squeaky wheel seems to be the small minority is getting the attention. You've got grinding wheel bearings, howling wheel bearings, and it's been happening for the last year about this topic, and they're getting disenfranchised, just put off to the side. I'm hoping, at least on the zoning end of it, you guys think twice and not just rush it in through there, because just like they said, the amount of money and things, it's written in there, it could be used. So if everybody talked at the planning commission, and you guys even at the other meeting in Elk Rapids, seemed to have a problem with it, and the attorney said, well, the courts don't usually make them do that. The courts set the fines, whatever, but why write it in then? Why not write in something that makes sense and is able to be accepted by everybody as a whole? I don't know. I mean, I know I have stuff and people have spoke about it. Some people don't like looking at it. I guess, what is the real urgency? I don't think I've killed anybody yet. I don't think I've hurt anybody yet. To this day, I've never hurt anybody's property values, and the township seems to be really into people's property values. And I'm just saying, I've lived here since '88, and the township has never, ever once cared about my property values and things that help me and protect my property rights. I've had just the opposite, even though I've tried to do the right thing, pulled the permits when they were required, and you aren't that board. You're just different faces right now. But with this thing here, it's going down that same road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Who else would like to make a public comment tonight?
Good evening, John Fitzgerald, 8649 Church Street. I've spoken at this board meeting previously. I've also spoken at the planning commission meetings. I'd like to read something that was, this is a matter of public record that was in the April 13th minutes. Moved by Aaron's, seconded by Coaster, that if the township clerk has not submitted a repayment plan by payroll deduction that is acceptable to the board no later than 3 business days prior to the township board's next regular meeting, which is April 23rd, to refer the issue to the county sheriff's department, state police, and/or county prosecutor for investigation of possible criminal conduct by the township clerk. At the next meeting, that issue wasn't added to the agenda, and there's been no, I've scoured the minutes from every meeting so far. I've never seen any resolution to the issue that's been made public. So I'm asking the board to make public, in the interest of transparency for the taxpayers of Whitewater Township, tell us what happened. Thank you.
Who else would like to step forward and make a public comment tonight?
Good evening. I'm Rachel Steelman, resident. I have to admit, I'm both amused and a little flattered that this board apparently felt the need to come up with a nickname for the 100+ residents who have spoken out against the civil infraction ordinance. The lawless minority mob. That's quite a way to describe your own constituents. But since we're apparently the minority, I have to ask, where is the overwhelming majority? Where are their emails, their public comments? Where are the residents filling this room demanding this ordinance? Because you don't get to count everyone who stayed home as a yes. Your job is to listen to the residents who do show up, read the ordinance, ask questions, submit comments, and speak up, even when you don't like what they have to say. Instead, you mock us and give us a nickname. It's not leadership, and it certainly doesn't make the concerns of your constituents disappear. But thanks for the nickname. Lawless Minority Mob does have a certain ring.
All right, who else would like to come forward and make a public comment tonight?
Kim Angus. You all know where I stand on the civil infraction ordinance. This is not a healthy thing for our community. This is something that might be a necessity in a Chicago, Detroit, New York. We are a small rural community. We have so far always been able to take care of things by agreement, by working with people, by going to our neighbors, or by having the zoning administrator go to the neighbor if we're not making any headway. This is not a healthy introduction into our community. You have civil infraction for parking, for noise, for trash. And those are more appropriate items. I can completely agree. Those are one-time events. Where my shed is sitting, not appropriate. Land use, not appropriate. In addition to that, I've made the statement previously, our zoning ordinance is not ready for the rigors of this type of enforcement. You are looking at an ordinance that the Planning Commission looked at and said, shall is a legal mandate. You have no discretion. Right now, if there's a violation that comes to this board through the ZA, this board gets to vote on whether or not it is in the public's interest to spend money on a particular issue. Is it dangerous? Is it essential? Is it affecting the health, safety, and welfare of our community? This ordinance removes that. It is replacing it with a mandate that you must enforce. There's no discretion as this is written. Our PC chair actually illustrated that by saying, well, that way we can't have selective enforcement. Our township is not prepared for non-selective enforcement. I have made the comment previously, there are very, very few properties in our township that do not have zoning ordinance violations. I do not see that as a problem with our properties. I see more of that as a problem with our ordinance not being completely cleaned up. Even if you were going to do it, you don't put this forward when it's still theoretically illegal to have a tractor in my yard. This is a rural community. I don't have to farm to have a tractor in my yard. I would strongly encourage you not to continue down the road you're on. You have no public mandate. You have no survey stating that people want a change, a fundamental change in how our ordinance is being addressed. This is not healthy. Turn back.
Thank you,
And
Kim.
additionally, the planning commission is using a computer with a countdown screen. It is very beneficial. I strongly encourage the board to take their lead.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Who else would like to make a public comment?
Mark Williams, Watson Road, Whitewater Township. I'll take a shot at this. I'm not a very good public speaker, and so I made some notes, and the thing I'm worse at than speaking is reading my own writing. So I haven't lived in Whitewater Township very long. I'm only 78. I couldn't have lived here longer than that. But I've noticed some things recently that the township seems to be degrading. Looking at snow plowing in the wintertime, the roads used to be plowed equally. It didn't matter where you lived. They all got plowed. The route took in everybody. Now you can look at in the winter and you'll see Maple Road is plowed 3 times for every time that Lackey Road is plowed. The school bus. When my kids went to school, the school bus came to the house and picked them up. Now they don't go to all the houses where there are students. You have to make arrangements. We have families here that only have 1 car, and we even have families that work, and that car goes to work. That leaves the kids, how do they get to the school bus stop? And we used to have recycling, and that's gone. I mean, these are all steps backwards, and Whitewater Township should be going forward. People just seem to be becoming nationwide increasingly unlawful. You can prove it to yourself. Try driving 55 on M72. See how many cars pass you. Every car that passes you, they know they're doing something wrong, but they do it anyway. Or try driving through Traverse City or even Elk Rapids and see how many people drive through the red lights. They know that that's wrong, but they do it anyway. Here a couple of weeks ago, I was driving down Williamsburg Road, 55 miles an hour. Guy behind me couldn't stand it. Had to pass on the double yellow. He knew it was wrong, but he did it anyway. I see instances of that all the time. And right here, we have an ordinance that people know it's wrong, but they're probably going to pass it anyway. We just did a Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and a word in there, liberty. What does liberty mean? We could find that again a little bit earlier in the Declaration of Independence. It comes up words pursuit of happiness. Well, what does pursuit of happiness mean? That's kind of ambiguous. But if you look at some of the prior drafts of that document, it didn't say pursuit of happiness. It said pursuit of property and property rights. That was an experiment that was happening because it didn't happen in other countries. You didn't have the right to own property. Sum up, this ordinance is wrong. Passing it is wrong. If you do it, you're doing it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Who else would like to make a public comment tonight?
I disagree with you. You're a great public speaker. Glad to have you with us. Thank you, Mike.
Mike Jacobson, Whitewater Township resident. I agree 100% with everything that every person here has said tonight. You all know that. This is an argument that's been going on in this community for a long time. You don't have, you're not willing to show us support for this if you have it. I don't think you do. The other thing I would add to what these people have said, you're infringing upon our 7th Amendment right. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution. Are you going to uphold the Constitution or are you going to trample our rights? Well, I have another topic I'd like to talk about. I'd rather ramble on about this one, but I've been forced to pay for my road to be repaved, even against my own wishes. I asked this board to make sure that my culvert got cleaned out. Linda, I saw you write a note when I did that. I talked to two different road crews on the road while they were doing the work, no results. One of the road crews said, call and put a work order in. So I did that, no results. I had to take time off work to go to the road commission to talk to the lead guy there. Okay, so they sent Miss Dig out. I had to put up with Miss Dig flags all over my ditch and my driveway for 2 weeks before they showed up. This morning they showed up, got out there and I talked with the guy, the lead guy on the crew. In our conversation, I came to understand that the guy I talked to at the road commission building misunderstood the conversation we had, and he thought that I wanted a culvert, that I was willing to buy a new culvert to put in across the Losi Road Trail. That is not my property. I can't do that. But the crew leader that was on my property today, doing the work today, told me that my ditch is gonna fill right back in because there is no culvert there. The township has taken responsibility for the Losi Road Trail. I think it's the township's responsibility to make sure a culvert gets in there so that my culvert doesn't get filled up again and my driveway doesn't wash out again. I talked to your zoning administrator here and she told me I cannot fill in my lower part of my property without a permit from the DEQ. Well, all I gotta do is just wait for it to all wash off the side of the road and fill in down there anyway. Might take another 30 years, but that's what's been happening for the last 26 years. So it's okay for the county road commission to fill it in inadvertently, but I can't do it. The guy told me today that's exactly what's gonna happen again if there's not a culvert put up on across the Losi Road Trail in the Skigmog Point Road easement. So I think it's your responsibility to do that, and I'm asking you to do it. Everybody else gets their driveway taken care of and their roads taken care of, but us on Skigmog Point Road, like we have to pay for it, which is wrong to begin with.
Okay, who else would like to make a public comment? Okay, that concludes public comment for now. The next item we have. We do not have a public hearing tonight. There's no special presentations. Wendy noted the correspondence. I guess we need a motion to approve the consent calendar that included the correspondence as she noted at the opening of the meeting. Is there any discussion needed to pull that out and discuss it, or? Okay, I'm not seeing any recommendations for that. So if I can have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar as amended.
I'll second that, Melnick.
Seconded by Melnick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed? That motion passes. We do not have any minutes for approval, so the next item on the agenda is Michael Beach. If you can please step to the podium. So today we're welcoming Michael Beach as our new assessor. He'll be transitioning with Don Coons over the next 2 weeks through the end of the month. And he comes to us with over 20 years of assessor experience, and he's currently the equalization director at Benzie County. So welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. You stole about half of my opening remarks there, but yet that's what you said is true. That's okay. I'm pleased to be here. I've been involved in this business for a long time. To give you an idea of how I like to conduct myself, I'm of the mind that assessor's responsibility is to never collect a cent more than they're required to by law. And just so everyone knows, you'll find me to be a welcoming and approachable figure. If you have any issues with your property taxes or assessment administration, please know that I'm there to help you, to serve the township and its residents. You'll never find me to be an adversary in any way, and I will always give you the best advice for you in that particular situation. About myself more personally, I have a lovely wife and two young daughters. So dad is my real full-time job. I came to this area because I've been vacationing, taking camping trips up here since as long as I can remember. And I said to myself, if I ever had the opportunity to move up here, I would. And I can't tell you how pleased I am to be a part of your community, even in a small way. So it really is an honor. And um, oh shoot, I think there was more things I wanted to say, but I'm also not a great public speaker. But once we get an opportunity to interact one-on-one, I think you'll find me to be welcoming and approachable. If the board has any questions, I'd be honored to take them.
Anybody have any questions for Michael today?
Thank you again for the
All right.
opportunity.
Well, welcome again. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Dan Soper. Dan, can you come up to the podium, please? So the information on Dan is at the end of your packet on page 22. So Dan provided an application to be part of our zoning board of appeals. So welcome and thank you for volunteering. It's a very important job.
You're welcome.
And so Dan is here to answer any questions or anything that you would like to say to the board about taking on this position as a zoning board of appeals member.
Well, I guess not at this point. I was on a vice president of Home Builder Association years ago. And I was voted in when I was out west hunting elk. And I come back and said I was on the board, and I go, I'm not a good speaker. I'm a terrible speaker. So I said, I'll take the position if I don't have to get up in front of this. So you're gonna have to excuse me. And because of Vietnam, I have problems with my hearing. So the hearing aids help some, but I do have issue with it. But I hope to help. I have I've done construction all my life. I have a lot of done about everything, steel buildings, done a lot of stuff. So I'm hoping that I can help the township. I know you had a shortage, and hope I can help the township try and figure some of these problems out. I have a good common sense, and I had a lot of experience, so.
Okay, any questions for Dan?
Just have one. You were a general contractor, it says.
Yes.
here. What kind of construction were you doing?
I did commercial and residential both.
Was that in Grand Traverse County and this whole region?
Yeah, the whole region, Antrim, Grand Traverse, Leelanau, everywhere. I built all three of the Alden State Bank buildings. I did the car wash in Elk Rapids Village Addition, did the fire department in Elk Rapids, and done log homes, steel buildings, pretty much everything. If people can't figure it out, I go in and take care of it and do it.
So you're familiar with working with zoning ordinances and building codes and all of that?
Oh, yeah.
Right, so that
Yes.
should be very helpful.
Yep.
And you've been on the other side of it too, more than likely asking for variances and
Yeah. Yeah, the
approvals.
codes keep changing all the time, as everything.
Okay, other questions?
I do. So I have a question just a little bit about like continuing education. Do you have any adversity to that, like making sure that you are up to date?
No, I expect there probably be some of that in the process, because I haven't been on this board, this type of board. So I'm sure there would be some things I can learn. Never, I'm 81, but never stop learning.
I like it.
Sarah?
None from me tonight, thank you.
Pardon me?
No questions from me tonight, thank you.
All right, and I think the only other thing I would like to add is certainly Dan put it on his application for appointment, but certainly most of the cases that come to the zoning board of appeals have to do with many of them are something to do with placing some new construction on a piece of property. So I think that he's well suited to, being able to evaluate those plans and help the team understand things. So I think that's definitely a good skill. It's a skill that we've had in the past, but we currently don't have somebody on the zoning board of appeals with that specific detailed skill. So that's helpful.
And knowing Deb, that she said because of my experience, she would like to see if I would join the board. And first I said no, and then I thought, well, I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
So I have one follow-up question, if
Sure.
you could. So do you have any construction project active now? Are you still in the business or are you?
No, I'm retired.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right. So there's a motion on page 22. Somebody'd like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to confirm the recommendation of the supervisor appointing Dan Soper to a 3-year term on the Whitewater Township Zoning Board of Appeals. The term will end on December 31st, 2029.
I'll second that motion.
Great. Motion made by Hoeksema, seconded by Milnick. We can have a roll call vote when you're ready.
Quigley,
Yes.
Milnick,
Yes.
Slipsema,
Yes.
Aaron's is absent, Hoeksema, yes.
Okay. Well, great. Motion passes. So Dan, between myself and Wendy, we will be in touch with you. I believe there is an upcoming meeting at the end of the month.
No.
No? Okay. I'm corrected. So
Okay.
we will get a hold of you regarding
That fast.
paperwork that needs to be done, as well as access to some of the educational materials that you should start working on right away.
Okay,
Okay.
keep me informed.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
I got a question. Where's our dumpsters? Are they gone now or
Actually, we're going to address that in a few minutes on the
Yeah.
agenda. Okay.
am I done?
Yes, you're finished. Okay. All right. I have a very brief update. The next item on the agenda is under Parks and Recreation items. As you're all aware, we've been trying to work on a boat wash for the Whitewater Township Park. We do have some progress and some things that are not making progress, but we did just this past week received communication from state of Michigan Eagle that the water discharge permit application was accepted. So that is now complete. So we can proceed to do construction once we have a contractor. We had some communication from the person that bid the job several months ago. However, they didn't follow through with a new proposal with us, so we need to do some follow-up on that. So that's all I had for now. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Moving on, recycling update, just in time. So we had a meeting scheduled for earlier this week, but that ended up getting bumped to the 18th. We have a meeting scheduled with GFL. They will be here on site to discuss different options for new locations for the recycling, and also to talk about potential implementation of curbside recycling, what that might look like for our township residents. So I don't have a lot of detail right now, other than there are expected to be 3 representatives from GFL here. And I should mention, let me just check really quick what that is in case anybody that's interested. And anybody that's not aware, the recycling was removed from here because we had 2 injury accidents from citizens having lacerations on their face due to the condition of the bins. And then we also had a concern with the safety of moving traffic and pedestrian during the emptying of the recycle bins, which was highly, very dangerous for the safety of both the driver and the people that were involved. And hang on, let me just grab this date on the 18th. The GFL meeting is at 10 a.m. and it's here. Any questions from the board members?
We don't have any idea what steps are necessary to get curbside recycling yet in the township.
I'm still learning about that. Yeah, and then I guess I would add further is we have continued to be in touch with Lydia Gulo at the county regarding, I know that she had calls into the tribe to see if they would be willing to somewhere on their property, between, you know, Acme as well as Whitewater, if they would be willing to locate recycling containers. So we continue to ask for support from them as well. Questions? Okay, then we will move on. Got a speed sign update. We have speed signs. I think this was touched on at our meeting on Tuesday. We have speed signs installed and functioning on Church Street as well as on Skigamog Point Road. There has been a lot of communication this week. Specifically, we received comments both from Church Street residents as well as Skigma Point residents about maybe wanting to make some adjustments. And so we'll work on setting up a meeting next week on that as well to engage in a more detailed in-person discussion. Right now, we've received a lot of some email communication, but we really need to be talking in person about that. Questions on that? Okay, so moving on to new business, we already had the ZBA appointment that's completed. And so now we're up to consideration of the amendment to the zoning ordinance, Article 22 violations section. And Randy, you had a memo here about that.
Yes, there's a memo in your packet that starts on, I think, page 3 that describes some of the recent events. It begins with June 30th, but as we know it, there was a prior meeting to that. The June 30th meeting was the one held at Elk Rapids on this enforcement mechanism known as civil infraction. We heard a presentation from our attorney at that point, and then the action from the township board was to refer this to the planning commission because what's needed is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, and zoning ordinance amendments begin with the planning commission. So that was done, and on July 22nd, the planning commission held a special meeting to and conducted a hearing on proposed amendments to Article 22, which was what was the document that was referred from the township board. That meeting was also held in Elk Rapids at the same time. The planning commission did not make a decision that evening, and rather on August 5th, brought the issue up again at its meeting, and some minor changes were made to the document after some consultation with the township attorney. And what you have in your packet is really the findings of the planning commission, the relevant sections of the zoning ordinance, the sections of the master plan that are relevant, and what is somewhat new to the board here is the material that appears on page, let's see here, 17 and 18, which is the proposed findings. Both the planning commission and the township board are supposed to identify their own findings for approval of a zoning amendment. I think the relevant ones are items B and D and E, I'm sorry. And I'll just go ahead and read it. It says, as far as consistency with the basic intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance, excuse me, the purpose of the zoning ordinance is to regulate land use within Whitewater Township. In turn, it's critical that the ordinance have a fair and cost-effective means of enforcement by changing the penalty provision for a violation of the ordinance. The board finds that by changing the penalty from a criminal penalty to a civil infraction causes less harm to a township resident when enforcement is needed by eliminating the possibility of a criminal conviction while allowing for a civil process which encourages compliance and due process, as well as providing for an efficient manner to enforce the zoning ordinance. And then secondly, that conditions have changed. That's one of the criteria for pursuing a zoning amendment. And the proposed finding is that the board finds from experience that attempting to enforce a zoning ordinance as a criminal violation is prohibitively expensive and burdensome both to the township as well as the property owner the township is seeking enforcement against. Based upon recent township board experience in enforcing the zoning ordinance, the township has received direct feedback from the court stating that ordinance violations should not be enforced through criminal penalty. Thus, the 86th District Court position, based upon experience of enforcement by the township, the conditions have changed and warrant changing the penalty from a criminal violation to a civil infraction. So those are two of probably the most relevant findings that the board can reach in order to approve this amendment. I just want to make another comment, though, about the state of the ordinance and the fact that we're looking at a civil infraction mechanism to enforce the ordinance, and that is that our zoning ordinance does need work. In my experience, a zoning ordinance is never perfect. It's never something that that is static. It's always being changed. It's always being updated. But I think to have an efficient way of enforcing it, a civil infraction mechanism is the preferred approach. And if you do any research at all in this, you'll find that according to ChatGPT, in fact, thousands of Michigan municipalities have adopted civil infractions as their way of enforcing an ordinance. So we're the outlier in this whole system here. We are one of the few that hold on to a criminal complaint for enforcing our zoning ordinance. So I don't want to, there's a lot of material here. I want to answer any questions. The letter comes from myself and the chair of the planning commission with all the required exhibits and documentation.
Okay, at this point, I would say I open it up to discussion amongst the board members with any comments or questions.
I'll go. Well, thank you. I appreciate everything the planning commission has done and worked and laid it all out for us as well. I appreciate that. I think there's lots of bad info out there. I think a lot of people have it backwards. We don't want a criminal. We have a zoning ordinance and we don't want it to be criminal. It's not appropriate to be criminal. And as Mr. Williams was saying, that civil infraction is like a speeding ticket. And so speeding tickets are also, people know that they're doing something wrong. If you have a zoning ordinance that's enforced as a criminal offense, I think that is wrong. Even Judge Stepka asked us why we did not have that. And so it's also very costly. Our job here on the board is to protect everyone and we need to make good decisions, and regarding the costliness of that enforcement too is not a good decision, I don't believe. It's not complaint. Our enforcement is complaint driven. It's not complaint enforced. So saying that you could have all the complaints in the world does not mean that they're going to go anywhere. I don't see our zoning ordinance as not being changed. Our enforcement is not necessarily being changed. We have a process of that. What is being changed is that it's not a criminal offense. And so I support this change because I wrote a little thing so I can make sure what I was saying. I support this change because I protect property rights works both ways. Property owners should be also able to reasonably use and enjoy their land without unnecessary government interference. But they should also be protected when a neighboring use clearly violates the zoning rules that apply to everyone. An amendment does not create new zoning restrictions or give the township new authority over the private property. It changes the penalty. So for an existing zoning violation for a criminal misdemeanor to a civil process, like a speeding ticket, a complaint from a neighbor is not proof of a violation, and enforcement should be based on the written ordinance, documented facts, and consistent treatment, not personalities or who complained. The $500 amount is a maximum. It's not an automatic daily fee. The daily violation language provides a tool for situations where a proven violation continues and a property owner still has the right to contest that citation through the court process. In my mind, if you have a zoning ordinance that is not going to keep going on a daily basis. So you would have to have 30 different zoning violations for you to have the 30 days of 500 maximum. We're a rural township. Preserving that rural character is exactly why reasonable zoning enforcement matters. We also border a growing urban area and experience development and tourism pressures. Protecting rural character does not mean having no rules. It means having clear, reasonable rules that protect landowners from government overreach while also protecting them from generally harmful or incompatible uses next door. We don't want things coming back next door to us. So the goal should be fair enforcement, voluntary compliance whenever possible, due process, and the protection of our rural community we're trying to preserve.
Thank you. Sarah, do you have any comments or questions that you'd like to make?
I agree with the public that the $500 per day is definitely an issue, but from what I have read in this, it is not going to be a per day thing on the same violation. That the one violation would need to be escalated to the judge, and the judge would decide if, am I correct in thinking that the judge himself or herself would decide if that $500 fine would be assessed on the violation that was ticketed? Okay.
Any other comments, Sarah?
I wanted to make sure that I'm clear on, because there seems to be a lot of conflicting information, and it's easy to get very upset about thinking about a worst case scenario that may not even be correct information. And I wanted to make sure that my understanding of, because it says a fine of not more than $500, and then right after that, it says each day on which the violation, but it doesn't seem to me that that is going to be the same violation.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
As it shall be subject to. It doesn't say that
yeah,
it's necessary. That was one of the changes the planning commission made.
right. So the text that people have mentioned that they're concerned about is, it says that, and it references the Michigan compiled law. This is directly from the Michigan compiled law, that an issue of a violation shall be subject to a fine of not more than $500, which is the direct Michigan statute wording. And then the portion that people have made comments on is the portion that says, each day on which any violation designated as a municipal civil infraction, so it means like an additional violation, as a municipal civil infraction continues, constitutes a separate offense and shall be subject to sanctions as a separate violation. So as Randy said, this was the wording that was modified from what was presented at the two public meetings that were held up in Elk Rapids. That wording was changed slightly, and as a point of clarification, when you get into the each day on which a violation is designated, as the civil infraction continues, that is a second phase of if original tickets and judgments are made, the court employee, whether it's a magistrate or a judge, determines the actual dispensation of the fines. And I believe at prior meetings, we produced the information from the 86th District Court as far as what the typical fines are. Typically, first offense never even hits the $500 price. And then if there continues to be problems in the future after that, that is again where the judge or the magistrate determines what the fine shall be.
We're talking about steps into the whole process, and that's like the
Additional
ultimate
steps, and
Right.
ultimately it is up to the judge what is dispensed as equitable justice for the specific situation as it exists. So this gives the judge the leeway as appropriate. I would make my only other comment, other than that clarification, is just that, I've spent a lot of time studying this. I believe that we have had many members of our community that I know have contributed to our zoning ordinance rules throughout the 50+ years of us being a zoned community. And again, I think it was stated by Wendy, we receive complaints. The very first step is whether or not the complaint is legitimate. And is it truly a violation to the zoning ordinance? It's not a random process. I think the process improvements that we already approved allow us to make sure that we are fair to everybody. So complaints that are made are investigated. No fines are ever levied until there's a full investigation and a discussion with the property owner and a determination. And the goal is always voluntary compliance, not, this is not a speed writing contest on tickets. So I believe that this is helpful to the community, because what's the point of having zoning rules if there's no intention of assuring that people follow them? We have many people that do follow the rules and they file for the required permits. But sometimes mistakes are made. Frequently that happens, and we're able to rectify that. But then there are cases where we're not able to bring properties into reasonable compliance in a reasonable time. So this is a mechanism, just as was said about speeding tickets, probably the most common civil infraction that occurs. Follow-up comments.
I would just add to that, for the benefit of the public, that the Planning Commission has been very busy working on zoning amendments. And there is a steady stream now of zoning amendments that is coming from the Planning Commission to the Township Board to fix problems that are in the ordinance that need to be corrected. We are going through it very methodically and very clearly and deliberately to walk through this ordinance, fix what's wrong, and get requirements in here that are sensible and in line with community expectations and the master plan, by the way. So that work is going on and will continue, I hope, to go on, because the community deserves a good zoning ordinance that's going to do what it needs to do. Historically, we've had problems with that, and it's being corrected.
Okay, other comments?
When you say problems, what do you mean? Like, not to make it stricter, but to make it more clarified, or to?
Yeah, to eliminate the ambiguity, to eliminate many problems in the ordinance. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on it with exposing issues, but there are substantial shortcomings in the ordinance, that things that are in the ordinance that aren't enforced, things that are implied that have been enforced, and everything in between. So it takes a lot of work and effort to walk through a zoning ordinance, find the problems. We have a consultant helping us with that, and that's been very helpful.
So it's more like making sure one is talking about the other and they all work together.
Yeah, for example, there's a couple places where reports are required for annual review. That's never happened, so that needs to be eliminated. It's not supported.
And so this would be more of, from my understanding of what you just said, more of an intermediate step to the beginnings of fixing some of the lack of clarity and some of the refining some of the things that aren't currently working. We're starting with this and we're making more in the future.
Well, I guess it's been pointed out that the zoning ordinance, that it's not in a shape. We shouldn't be worried about enforcement right now when the ordinance still needs work. I mean, I guess my point is that work has begun, it's ongoing, and it will continue to. But this is a key part of this as well, to get this enforcement mechanism in line with what is clearly the best practice throughout townships throughout Michigan, and actually municipalities as well. So.
Anything further? And Wendy, anything further? No. The last comment I'd like to just make is for people, excuse me, this is No, Roland, you're not on the agenda here today. So, Roland, I can talk to you at the end of the meeting, okay?
There's public comment.
Or you can make a public comment here shortly. I believe that the one other comment I'd like to make, especially based on talking to a citizen this week, was that, people that have suggestions or knowledge of things that they think either have not been done in the past or, have good detail regarding changes. Certainly, the planning commission is already engaged in updating things, and has a list that they're working towards, but citizens should step forward and work with the planning commission and document things that they believe need attention, and the planning commission can figure out whether it's already on the list and in process or if it needs to be added.
Yeah.
And I think that obviously the planning commission is trying really hard to properly prioritize, and having knowledge of what's slated for change certainly is something that our zoning administrator would always be well aware of.
I would
So-
encourage anyone to contact Reen Stratton, the chair of the planning commission, and
Yes,
bring that to her attention.
and provide the recommendations. You know, that's the proper place for that. All right. Any further discussion? Okay. I believe the motion is, am I correct on this? It's on page
It's on
19.
page 19, but I'll make a motion that based upon the findings of fact under section 2105 of the zoning ordinance and the planning commission recommendation that zoning ordinance amendment 2026-04 be adopted.
Okay, I'll second that motion. So motion made by Milnick and seconded by Slopsima. We'll have a roll call vote when ready.
Hoaxma, yes. Milnick,
Yes.
Slopsma,
Yes,
Quigley.
Yes.
all right, motion passes. All right, we do not have any tabled item announcements, and this is a correction to the agenda. Our next meeting is actually, I'm gonna check my calendar, September 10th, 2026. Our August meeting from August 27th was canceled at our last board meeting. Are there any other board member announcements?
Excuse me, Linda, could I clarify that meeting on the 10th is at 6:30, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, no other board member announcements. Now we've got the second public comment. The same rules apply with a 3-minute time limit. Who would like to make a public comment?
Roland Osterhaus, 7185 Skegamog Point Road. This is my 7th meeting relating to Lossy Trail, Lossy Road. And I live in Nashville, Tennessee, so it's a 12-hour drive coming up here to these meetings. And like I said, it's the 7th meeting. And I try to follow all the rules, getting the material in at least 10 days before so I can be on the docket. Here's the long and the short story. Lossy Trail goes diagonally through my property off Skegamog Point Road. And I purchased the property in the 70s, and I planted walnut trees in the 70s and have been working those trees and farming those trees for 25 years. So what changed is in 92, it was made into a trail. And it was used as a road up until about 7 years ago, until a number of trees fell down from the wind. And then they put up signs saying no motorized vehicles. Up to that point, people were driving on the public was. So so they could go fishing back at Battle Creek. And so the signs are still up, and I have gone over the same thing. I've got the trees that I've been working on, the farming, and the rules changed on me. And I've had people from Cadillac come in from the soil erosion department saying, yes, there is no other way to get to my property other than Lossy Trail. There is an aerial view that I was going to be able to show you and that I sent in, showing where it's all wetland. There is no other way. One, perhaps, a little north of my property, I could go in, but then I have to have a bridge to go over the wetland, which is going to be $500,000. But I still then, to get back to the other side of Lossy Trail, I'd have to have another bridge further on down because there is some dry area. There is a lot of trees that I've been working on that need to be cut up. And it'd probably be another $500,000. There is no other way. So the situation is, if I cannot get to my property, all those years of working that land are gone, and all the possible money coming from walnut trees and then later from wood, timber, is all gone. Period. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so what I'm saying is that there's got to be a way that I can take care of those trees. If not, I'm losing over $1 million. I don't believe in lawsuits. I feel that this can be worked on as I've come, like I said, this is the 7th time to discuss this. And something has to be done. I'm not going to give up on it. That's $1 million. And I followed all the rules. And that's the way it sits. And so I can send back up the material that shows how it's all.
So Roland, I'd be happy to talk to you at the end of the meeting, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
If you can please stick around. Appreciate it.
Eric Sanborn, 7905 Cook Road. I just wanted to thank all of you for serving on the boards and the positions you do. I know it's not easy. We may see things differently, agree to disagree, and have opposing viewpoints and all that, but thank you nonetheless for serving where you're at.
Thank you, Eric. Would anybody else like to make a public comment?
Kim Mangus. First thing, Mr. Osterhouse's property, under the Right to Farm Act, the township has no right to keep him from being able to access his property. This has been ongoing for a very long time. I would really encourage the board to get this taken care of. It has happened for far too long. As to the civil infractions ordinance, a statement was made that the goal is always voluntary compliance, and that's still what we're doing. It is not voluntary compliance when you're holding a $500 gun to someone's head. Thanks.
I guess I'm a little bit confused. Page 15 in the board packet has the article, the amendment article 2201. Is that not what you guys just passed unanimously? Everybody's kind of said something about this $500 figure, and it's like, I'm not an attorney, but I do know attorneys, and I've sent this to them multiple times. And they said the way it is written, it doesn't matter if it's the same one. It actually says each day on which any violation, so it could be the same one over and over again, designated as a municipal infraction. So whatever you said was that one, continues, constitutes a separate offense and shall be subject to the, as a separate violation. So, I mean, it can be the same one. So I don't know what you guys were just saying earlier. I've sent this to people and they said, this is what it can be to the letter of the law. But you keep saying like, well, a judge isn't going to do that and things like that. A judge can do whatever he wants to do. I've lived it. And it doesn't make sense sometime, but I'm just saying, why wouldn't you said you guys changed the wording and stuff like that, but it doesn't really seem like it changed at all, because it still can be everyday occurrence, can be a new separate thing, even though it's the same thing, but I don't see it. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm ignorant or something, but thanks.
Mike?
Jacobson, Whitewater Township resident. I agree with everything that's been said here. I'd like to add about the civil infractions thing. Just because this group of people say they won't enforce it that way, the way it's written, some group of people down the road can enforce it as it's written. So trying to tell us that you won't enforce it that way doesn't mean much, because you're not always gonna be in control, the leaders. So the next group of leaders could have a different viewpoint and they could enforce it to the letter as to how it's written. So I still disagree with how it's written. Secondly, Mr. Osterhaus's problem has been an ongoing thing for a very long time. It's been brought to this board's attention on many occasions. Linda, you yourself told me that you were working on trying to come up with a resolution. The simple fact of the matter is, all you have to do is look up the Supreme Court of Michigan's records, and you will find that the Supreme Court of Michigan has ruled on this particular issue. And Mr. Osterhaus has the right to use that trail to access his property. When he bought that property, it was a county road easement that he was accessing his property through. You guys changed the rules on him. He followed the rules. Now you're denying him the ability to use his property in a realistic manner. And it doesn't take that long to research the Michigan Supreme Court rulings. I mean, it's a real simple thing. Turn it over to your lawyer, let him do it. If you can't do it yourself, and you're gonna have to have the taxpayers pay for it, but get the job done. This right here is one of the examples of the township board running over the citizens of this community. And thirdly, I don't mean anything personal against Mr. Soper, but as I understood it, I was on the planning commission for quite some time. I could be wrong, maybe I'm misunderstood, but as I understood it, Mr. Soper was allowed to build a building that was too big without a special use permit, and he didn't get a special use permit. So I question his knowledge of how things work and his authority, what is I question his qualifications. If he's a builder, he should have known the zoning ordinances before he came down here and asked to do the thing, so he should have known the building was bigger than it needed to be. And if I'm misquoting this and I'm wrong, I apologize. But as I understood it, that's how it went down. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Would somebody else like to make a public comment?
It's called self-defense. I got all the permits I needed. I got 5 acres there. I know nothing about what he's talking about. All the permits were legal. I got 5 acres. So I don't have any idea what he's talking about. Excuse me.
Linda?
Um,
I know I already spoke, but I have something to contribute on that. Would you prefer that it's done in private or in public comment?
I would prefer you send me the documentation, please.
It would be verbal. Okay.
If you'd like to wait at the end or give me a call tomorrow. All right, who else would like to make a public comment tonight? All right, on the agenda, any further board comments or discussion? Anyone?
No.
All right, then I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
I'm not sure who was first.
Either-
Say Randy,
Sarah.
second.
It's all yours.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, meeting adjourned.